Welcome to the video on completing the gradebook. Today's objectives are simple: to demonstrate the knowledge and operations within Excel. We'll be using some of the skills that we've already learned in class, while adding to these skills by learning to utilize functions built within Excel. So welcome to starting the gradebook. Again, this video presentation will walk you through completing the activity. Up to this point, you should already created the gradebook that we'll be utilizing to complete this activity today. The assignment instructions are found in Schoology, and you do need to have this completed before you go through this video. Otherwise, it will not help you produce what you need to turn in at the end. So again, you can find this on Schoology. It is called Gradebook Setup, and they will walk you through the instructions to completing the gradebook setup. And then once you have completed the gradebook setup, you'll end up with an Excel sheet like this. This will be what we're going to build of as we complete the activities today. And again, what we'll be doing is using some of the skills we've already learned about Excel while adding to them and learning some of the functions and formulas and other tools in Excel to help us excel in Excel. I know, I'm so funny. Alright, so the first task you're going to do now is you're going to add some basic formatting. These are formatting skills that you have already learned or should have learned in class. So what I'm going to recommend you do is pause this video to complete these formatting activities. The next part of this video will continue on with these formatting activities completed. So again, pause to watch to complete these activities. Now that you have these activities done, you should end up with a work that looks like this. Now there are a couple things I do want to point out to you. First, when you did the wrap text, sometimes this happens, where you see like the E of average or the N of exemption goes onto different rows. Just remember, all you need to do for something like that is just expand the column. Just make the column larger so that everything fits neatly. I also do want to point out that the labels, you should notice that these are labels down here as well. So those should have been formatted on the past activity. Realize that everything in the middle here, names and grades, are not part of labels. So therefore, these are not formatted beyond what we had typed in up to this point. In addition, you should have put your name, your last name, and first name in row 10 that was inserted. The other thing I want to point out is sometimes down here, you type in this name, it auto-corrects it to his. Some of you may have noticed it, some of you may have not even caught that. But what you want to do in order to stop it from auto-correcting is once you type in the name, as you see I've done here, you simply want to double-click the name, thus telling Excel, I know how the name is spelled, please do not auto-correct it. And once you hit enter, it will leave the name as is. Excellent. So let's move on and get started by completing this gradebook. So we're going to start here in cell G5. Now G5 is under the student's average column. So that tells us that we are going to be looking to average the test for each student. And remember, when we're creating formulas, the best way to do it is create it in one cell. Once you have it established and you know a successful formula, then you will drag and copy it to the rest of the cells. So how do we compute a student's average? Well, as most of you know from math class, you would simply add up all of the numbers that are going into the average and divide it by how many numbers you have. So in this case, you would end up taking these four numbers, adding them up, and dividing them by 4 to arrive at student's average. However, in Excel, we don't want to go through that extra work because it has a tool built in for us to utilize. So if we go up to the sigma, which we've learned about already, and use the drop-down menu, you will see in this drop-down menu we have average. And once you choose average, you will get an operation in here. Now remember, I'm going to backtrack here just so we can see it again. When you select any of the quick functions, the first thing it does is it predicts. It gives you these dancing lines surrounding the numbers that it thinks you are trying to compute. And if you look at the prediction here, you can see that it selected the 4 test grades for Ben Williams. So in this case, it did predict correctly. And since it did predict correctly and there's nothing else for us to do, we simply hit enter, and now we have the average. As we've learned before, once we've established a formula, we simply use the little square down here to drag and copy it to the rest of the cells. Now, to make it look a little neater, what we're going to do is we're going to set this up by using the number group submenu. So if we go into the submenu, we can see under categories there's a bunch of different options. Well, since we're working directly with numbers, in this case, no currency or anything like that, we're just going to click on numbers. And what I'd like you to do is change it to 1 decimal place. So again, we're changing the category to number, and we're using 1 decimal place. And then you may simply hit OK, and you see it gives us a much nicer pattern and look for the student averages. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump down to cell C19. Now just want to remind you, you can pause and rewind this video at any time if you need further assistance or you need to just kind of stop it to see what's going on. But now let's look at C19. Now we're looking to average each test. So test 1, we want to find out the average of all of these tests. So again, we know from math we could add all these numbers up, find out how many tests there were and divide it by that number. However, we want to use tools that are built in Excel for us. So again, we're going to go to the drop-down menu next to sigma. These are your quick function options. And again, we're going to use average. Now again, the first thing it does is it predicts. It predicts what it thinks you are looking for in an average. Now if you look closely, you'll notice that it included a blank cell, an empty cell. We really don't want to include empty cells in our formulas. So what we do need to do in this one is recorrect the range that it is using for the average. So you can either recorrect it by simply dragging and selecting a range that you are looking for, or we could simply change the 18 to 17. Either way you want to do it is up to you. But once you have the average in there, go ahead and hit enter. And we're going to do the same thing. Select it, and we're going to drag and copy it. Now be careful, you don't want to go and average the students' averages, because remember, we're only averaging the 4 tests. So realize that we're stopping in cell F19. And we also want to clean this up a little bit and bring it down to 1 decimal. Now you could go back up and use a number group. However, I'm going to show you something else you could do. So I have the cells selected. I can now right click and choose Format Cells. And what you'll notice when you open this, it is the exact same menu as using the submenu from the number group. So again, we're going to use the number category and change it to 1 decimal. And once you've done that, hit OK, and now you have a much cleaner look for your averages. The next one is C20, which is number of taking tests, so number of people that took the tests. How many people have scored on this test? So again, this is going to be another quick function option. And again, if you go up to the drop-down menu next to the sigma, you will notice one of them is called min, or minimum, or in our case, lowest. Once you select it, again, it predicts what it thinks you want to look at. And if you look at this closely, you can clearly see it did not predict the test grades. It predicted what we just put in, the average. So that's not going to work for what we're doing. Oh, I'm sorry. I just realized I was using min for the number taking test. I don't know if anybody caught that, but hopefully you did. So let's look at this again. The number taking test. What do I want to do? I actually want to count numbers. I don't know why I did min. I was on the wrong line. But easy correction, because all we need to do is hit escape or delete to get rid of what was in that cell and start again. So we're looking at the number that took the test, and what we want to do for that is actually count numbers. So that's the quick function we're going to use. And again, you'll notice that again they predicted incorrectly. So what we want to do is select the test. And what it's going to do for us is count how many grades there are. And as you can see, there are 13 grades. Now we're going to hold off on dragging and copying, because let's do the lowest and the highest first. So again, repeating the process under lowest. This is where we will use min or minimum. Again, we'll select it. Again, notice it did not predict correctly. So we have to select what we want to include and hit enter. And then finally, the last one is looking for the highest test score. And if we go back up here again, drop-down menu, we'll see there is max. And if we click on max, again, it did not predict correctly. So we have to select what we want to use and now hit enter. And you'll see now it has given us the highest score. Now the reason I didn't have you drag and copy right away is because I want you to see you can actually select all three of these and drag and copy them at once, rather than doing it for each and every individual one. Again, remember, we're learning to use Excel to save us time, to do some of the work for us, to help us get things done faster. Now we're going to move on to H5. And H5 is the honor roll column. Ultimately, what we want to do is find out who is on the honor roll. And to do that, we will use another function that will look at the students' grades and determine if they're on the honor roll. Well, to do that, we have to kind of figure out which formula is going to best fit our need. If you go back up to the drop-down menu, you'll notice that we have used all of these quick functions. And none of these are going to search for us to see if someone's grade was a certain grade, such as 90 or higher, to be on the honor roll. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to More Functions. When you click on More Functions, you'll see you get this menu called Insert Function. And there are several options within Insert Function. As a matter of fact, if you go here to where it says Select a Category and change it to All, you can then scroll and see that there are a ton of different functions and formulas built into Excel. Look at this. I've clicked all this time and I'm just hitting the G's and H's now. There are a ton of different formulas and functions in here. Well, the one we're going to try now is called if. So what I'm going to have you do is just search for if. IF. Once you have it, you'll see the first one on here is if. There are some other options for ifs, but for our purposes, we're just using the first one. Go ahead and hit OK, and you'll see you get this function argument up. Basically what it is, it wants us to tell it what we're looking for it to do. Now, it's blocking our sheet a bit, so you can grab these boxes and move them around as you need. But we're going to put it right below where we want to get it filled in. So the first thing it says is logical test. What does that mean? It simply means, what is it you want me to look for? What is it on this sheet that you are looking to get done? Well, in this case, we are looking at the student's average. We're going to click on that cell. And what do we want to know about the student's average? We want to know if it's greater than or equal to 90. So we use the greater than sign or equal to sign and 90. And if you'll notice, right away it's telling us false, which means it is not, because their grade is 89.5. So close to the honor roll, but they did not make it. Now it wants to know, what do you want us to say if it is true, meaning it is 90 or higher? We're just simply going to say yes. We wanted to display the word yes, they are on the honor roll. However, if it's false, then let's have it say no. You'll also, after we moved off of where we put in the words, it threw quotes around it. The quotes are simply just so the program knows that it's not part of a function, it is not a cell reference or anything like that. It's just simply a word that's being added. And so now you should see quotes around yes and no once you click off of either one of them. And then once you hit OK, you can now see you have a no in there. And of course, as we know, we simply drag and copy it. And the final column here, I5, we want to see who is exempt from the exam. And in this case, the if function would be the same, except now we're looking for a 93 or higher. So we could simply go back to more functions, or you can simply go here. To the left of the formula bar, there is an option to insert a function. Once you click on that, you'll see you get the same menu that we were using. And we should have the if formula right away. If we hit OK, and now we do the same test. Student's average, greater than or equal to, in this case, 93. If it's true, then yes. If it's false, then no. And hit OK. And then again, drag and copy it down. Next, we're going to apply a table to this workbook. So if you look at this, the range of the table is going to be A4 through I-17. Why is this the range of the table? Because this up here again, these are titles. And then this information down here, this information comes from the table. So that's why A4 through I-17 is the only range for the table. So once you have the range selected, you are then going to go to Format as Table and select any color of your choice from the dark group. Any color of your choice. Again, remember it shows you the range, and then it asks if your table has headers, that's what all of these are. All of these headings are considered headers for a table. So you would hit OK, and then you would have a table. What I'd like you to do is then apply a fill of a color to match your table. And feel free to change your text to help have a better look. As far as the information down here, we're not going to format that or give that any type of color. So now you have created a table. As we learned before, one benefit to having a table is you can simply alphabetize the students' names. How? By using your drop-down arrow again, and then sort A through Z. It matches the students with their grades as you sort. Another huge benefit to using a table is watch what we can do. If you go back to I-5 and open up that function, which by the way you can simply do by clicking on the insert function again, and it'll open for you. We're going to change this. We're going to change this from yes to exempt, and we're actually going to get rid of the word no, and we're going to keep it blank. Now I want you to pay attention to what happens to the whole column once we hit OK. Now notice it changed everything. We didn't have to drag and copy the formula down. But I also want you to notice it shows you now the word false. Why is that? Simply because we did not tell it what to put in for the false. We kept it blank. So if we go back to the box, I don't want to put in the word no. So what I'm going to have you do is simply put in 2 double quotes. A set of quotes. Why? Because now you're telling it it's going to be blank. Since there's nothing in between the quotes, that's what it's going to put there. Nothing. Like here between the quotes we have exempt. Well, on the bottom between the quotes we have nothing. So now it's going to fill it in but leave it blank. And again, when you hit OK, you did not have to drag and copy it down because it filled in the whole table for you. That's one of the perks of using a table. If you change your formula in one cell, it changes it for the entire table. All right, and finally, just wrapping it up, I just want you to see what you've created. So if you go to Page Layout, once in the Page Layout tab, go to Page Setup and use the submenu. In here, we're going to simply first change this to Landscape. Then go to Margins, and we are going to center this on the page both horizontally and vertically. And then hit Print Preview. And you'll actually see what you created and what it would look like had we printed it out. right, that is it for today for finishing up the gradebook. Hold on to the sheet because you are not turning it in just yet. We will be turning this in all together with our other sheets that we have completed. All right, that's it for now. We'll talk to you soon.